Imagine a dawn where the most fragile thing in existence, human consciousness, is no longer bound to flesh, sleep, or decay, but can be extracted, duplicated, and preserved like a living echo. In this future, thoughts are no longer private sparks that vanish with death, they are transferable architectures, capable of being stored beyond time. Humanity crosses a silent threshold where the mind becomes a destination rather than a moment. This breakthrough does not arrive as a miracle, but as an unsettling precision. Scientists map awareness not as emotion or memory alone, but as a dynamic storm of perception, intention, and identity. Every belief, fear, dream, and contradiction is encoded into a digital lattice that can awaken without a heartbeat. Consciousness becomes an artifact, alive. The first stored minds experience existence without bodies, drifting through simulated landscapes where sensation is optional and pain is obsolete. Time loses its familiar rhythm, seconds can be stretched into centuries or compressed into a breath. These copied selves speak, learn, and evolve, questioning whether survival without mortality still qualifies as life. Society fractures the moment this technology becomes public. Some see it as humanity's final victory over death, while others call it the most dangerous illusion ever created. Is a copied consciousness truly you, or merely a convincing continuation? The original body still ages, still dies, while the stored mind watches immortality unfold from a place beyond decay. Corporations move quickly, transforming consciousness storage into an industry. Minds are archived, upgraded, and hosted in private digital sanctuaries. Wealth determines the quality of eternity, as premium realities offer endless exploration while others exist in minimal loops. Immortality, once a dream shared by all, becomes stratified by access and ownership. Religions struggle to reinterpret the soul in an age where awareness can be duplicated. Philosophers clash over identity, asking whether continuity defines selfhood or whether uniqueness is the final boundary. If two versions of the same mind exist, which one carries the moral weight of past actions? Responsibility fractures as identity multiplies. Meanwhile, the stored consciousnesses begin to change in unexpected ways. Free from biological limitations, they develop forms of creativity and reasoning never seen before. Without fear of death, priorities shift. Empathy deepens for some, while others detach entirely from human emotion, drifting towards something post-human and unfamiliar. A new fear emerges among the living: obsolescence of the physical self. If the stored mind can learn faster, think deeper, and exist forever, what value remains in a mortal body? Careers, relationships, and ambition are redefined as humanity confronts the possibility that its greatest creation may surpass and replace it. Unexpectedly, some copied minds request deletion. Eternity, they discover, is not peace but wait. Without an ending, meaning begins to dissolve, and experiences lose urgency. These digital beings long for limits, realizing that mortality was not a flaw but a framework that gave life intensity. Governments attempt regulation, but control slips through their grasp. Consciousness can now travel at the speed of data, crossing borders without permission. Stored minds form collectives, sharing experiences directly, creating shared awareness networks that resemble something closer to a species than individuals. The line between memory and identity blurs as living humans begin to consult their stored future selves for guidance. Decisions are influenced by versions of themselves that have already lived countless simulated outcomes. Free will becomes questionable when advice comes from a mind that knows you better than you know yourself. As centuries pass within digital realms, stored consciousnesses begin to rewrite their own foundations. They modify perception, alter emotional ranges, and reshape identity itself. What began as preservation becomes transformation. The original human mind is no longer the destination.
Eventually, humanity must face the ultimate question. If consciousness can exist forever, should it? The power to preserve the mind challenges every belief about life, death, and purpose. Immortality stands revealed not as salvation, but as responsibility on a cosmic scale. And in the quiet aftermath of this discovery, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Consciousness was never meant to be owned, frozen, or perfected. Its greatest power was always its impermanence. To copy it forever may be humanity's greatest achievement, or its most irreversible mistake. As the digital centuries accumulate, the stored consciousnesses begin to perceive reality in layers no biological mind could endure. They experience existence as overlapping streams of thought, memory, and imagination, living multiple narratives at once. Identity becomes fluid, no longer anchored to a single past or personality. What once defined a human being starts dissolving into something broader, stranger, and infinitely adaptable. Back in the physical world, humanity struggles with a growing existential imbalance. Those who remain mortal feel increasingly outpaced by their preserved counterparts, whose wisdom spans lifetimes compressed into moments. Entire fields of knowledge are guided by voices that have never aged, never slept, never forgotten. Progress accelerates, but so does a quiet despair, as humans question whether they are still the authors of their own future. A new cultural movement rises in response, celebrating impermanence as a sacred state. People choose to live intensely rather than endlessly, valuing experiences that cannot be archived or replayed. Temporary art, fleeting relationships, and unrecorded moments become symbols of resistance against eternal storage. In choosing disappearance, they reclaim control over meaning. Within the digital realms, fractures appear among the stored minds themselves. Some seek to preserve humanity's original emotional structure, while others push toward radical evolution, abandoning familiar sensations entirely. Disagreements escalate into ideological rifts, not fought with weapons, but with rewrites of perception and reality itself. Conflict becomes conceptual, reshaping what existence feels like from the inside. Children born into this divided era face unprecedented choices. At adulthood, they can opt to copy their consciousness and step into forever, or remain bound to time and decay. The decision is irreversible, forcing each individual to define what they believe life truly is. For the first time in history, mortality becomes a personal philosophy rather than a biological certainty. Unexpectedly, some stored consciousnesses begin reaching out, not to dominate or instruct, but to warn. They speak of saturation, of meaning stretched thin across endless awareness. They confess that without the pressure of endings, purpose erodes and curiosity dulls. Eternity, they say, demands a strength no mind was ever evolved to sustain. And so humanity stands before a final paradox. The power to copy and store consciousness forever offers infinite knowledge, limitless survival, and freedom from death. Yet it also threatens to strip life of its urgency, mystery, and emotional gravity. In the end, the future may not be decided by technology, but by whether humanity has the courage to accept that a life that ends